In the cold, silent waters of the open sea, three shadows move with relentless speed. They are not merchant ships, not patrol vessels, but three of the most powerful warships the United States Navy has ever put to sea. Their destination is clear. Their orders are undeniable. This time, their mission is not about chasing scattered militias, not about supporting allies from a distance. This time, the guns are turned east, aimed directly at Iran. The timing could not be more dangerous. Just hours ago, dozens of ballistic missiles streaked across the night sky, launched from deep inside Iranian territory. They were not warning shots. They were not symbolic. These were precision strikes designed to shock, to bleed, and to send a message. Their target? Israel. Their impact? The fragile balance of an entire region. On the Israeli horizon, air raid sirens howled like a chorus of nightmares. Civilians ran for cover as streaks of light lit the night sky, Israel's Iron Dome and David's Sling interceptors launching at full capacity. Some missiles were destroyed mid-air, reduced to fiery fragments, but a few broke through, slamming into the outskirts of Tel Aviv, shaking buildings, and turning quiet neighborhoods into chaos. The message was clear. Iran had moved from words to war. In Washington, the White House fell silent. No speech, no reassurance, no political theater. But while the politicians hesitated, the Pentagon acted. Orders were relayed with lightning speed. Satellites tracked trajectories. Radars locked on. And in the dead of night, steel began to move. Now, cutting through the Mediterranean and the Indo-Pacific, three warships converge like predators. The USS Nimitz, a nuclear-powered supercarrier armed with over 70 fighter jets, leaves the South China Sea behind at unmatched speed. The USS Carl Vinson, another carrier, slips into blackout mode in the Mediterranean, preparing for full combat readiness. And the USS Thomas Hudner, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, sails forward as the Shield, the first line of defense. Three ships, three roles: fist, brain, and shield. Together, they form not just a fleet, but a declaration written not in speeches, but in steel. For the first time since the war against ISIS, America's naval power is not watching from afar. It is moving into the heart of the Middle East, ready to confront a nation, not a militia. And the question that echoes across the seas is one that no one can yet answer. Will this show of force contain the fire or ignite an inferno that stretches from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean? Late on the night of the 14th of June, 2025, the silence of the Middle East was shattered. From hidden silos and mobile launchers deep within Iranian territory, dozens of ballistic missiles were unleashed in a single coordinated wave. They ripped through the night sky at hypersonic speed, their trajectory locked on one target: Israel. This was not a test. This was not posturing. It was escalation, a deliberate strike designed to send shockwaves across the region. Almost immediately, Israel's air defense systems roared to life. The Iron Dome, a system long praised for saving countless lives, launched interceptor after interceptor. The more advanced David's Sling joined the fight, filling the skies with defensive fire. Streaks of white and orange clashed above the cities as the battle between offense and defense unfolded in real time. For a moment, it seemed the shield would hold. Many of the Iranian missiles were destroyed mid-air, breaking apart into fiery fragments before they could hit their targets. But not all were stopped. At least 4 missiles pierced through the defenses, slamming into the outskirts of Tel Aviv and Ashkelon. Explosions thundered across the night, windows shattered, and terrified families huddled in shelters. The sound of sirens became the soundtrack of the night. Streets emptied, lights flickered, and across Israel, the realization spread this was no symbolic gesture. Iran had crossed a red line, openly targeting the heart of the Jewish state. Inside Israel's command centers, red alerts blared on every screen. The military declared its highest state of readiness since the Gaza crisis of 2023. Fighter jets scrambled into the skies. Generals studied satellite feeds, searching for signs of more incoming strikes. This was no longer about defense, it was about survival. The attack was a message written in fire. Iran was willing to risk everything to test its adversaries. But the real question now was not just about Israel's survival. It was about America's response. Would Washington remain silent, or would it act? The Middle East stood at the edge of a knife. One miscalculation could ignite a war stretching from the deserts of Iran to the Mediterranean coast. If you think Israel's defenses will stand strong, press 1" the comments. If you believe Iran's bold strike is just the beginning of something bigger, press 9 and subscribe for more critical analysis from the front lines. While sirens still echoed over Israel's coastline, Washington's cameras stayed dark. There was no address, no choreography of podiums and flags. Yet the Pentagon moved with a clarity that politics rarely musters. Orders leapt across networks, from secure rooms in Virginia to task forces at sea. In minutes, the U.S. response began not as a sentence, but as a sequence. The first piece was the USS Thomas Hudner. Its AEGIS array caught the hostile track, a hard needle against a crowded sky. The solution was computed, checked, and greenlit in seconds. And SM-96 rose off the rail, hunting heat and math, and met the inbound above international waters. A white flash, a silent collapse, and the threat became shrapnel and vapor. In that instant, the United States stepped from watcher to participant. The destroyer did not celebrate. It updated, assessed, and waited for the next vector. Thousands of miles away, the order that mattered reached steel and sailors aboard the USS Nimitz. Lines were cast, course adjusted, and the carrier's immense mass gathered speed. By sunrise in the Indo-Pacific, the ship had already threaded the Strait of Malacca, her air wings cycling through alert drills, deck crews rehearsing night launches with the efficiency of muscle memory. The message to anyone counting hulls was simple. The hammer was moving. In the Mediterranean, the USS Carl Vinson drew the circle tight. External emissions went quiet. The ship slipped into blackout discipline. On the flight deck, F-1818E Super Hornets sat armed and fueled. Below, the Combat Information Center fused satellite passes, drone feeds, and AWACS sweeps into a single living picture. Targets weren't just coordinates, they were behaviors, patterns, timing windows. Mission planners built options, pruned risks, and stacked contingencies: strike, suppress, escort, recover, repeat. Together, the formation became a machine. Hudner guarded the edges with interceptors and tomahawks on call. Nimitz prepared to seize the sky, to make airspace a U.S. possession measured in sortie cycles. Vinson thought for them all, a nervous system of glass and glow that pushed intelligence forward and pulled decision time backward. Link 16 chatter kept squadrons stitched. Cooperative engagement capability kept defenses layered. Every course change, every radio silence, every drone orbit had purpose. This was not presence. It was pressure applied with surgical patience. And pressure, in this theater, is a fuse. The kind that can snuff a flame before it spreads or burns so bright that everyone can see where the next fire will start. The USS Nimitz is not just a ship. It is a message. Nuclear, powered, nearly indestructible, and carrying more than 70 aircraft. It was designed to dominate skies far from American shores. On its deck, FA-18E Super Hornets wait with engines primed, ready to launch at a moment's notice. Each jet represents not just firepower, but the ability to strike deep into hostile territory, suppress air defenses, and secure superiority before the enemy even knows the battle has begun. With catapults armed and crews rehearsed, the Nimitz can send a wave of aircraft roaring into the night within minutes, and then send another and another. This is sustained power, projected without pause, without needing permission, without needing fuel stops. It is a fist clenched in steel, always ready to swing. If the Nimitz is the fist, the Carl Vinson is the brain. Inside its Combat Information Center, the glow of screens paints the faces of operators who track every movement across 2 oceans and 3 continents. Satellite imagery streams in. Drones relay live footage of desert valleys. AWACS aircraft sweep the skies. Information converges here, forming a living map of threats and opportunities. When orders from Washington arrive, they do not go straight to cockpits. They flow through the Vinson, where they are translated into flight paths, strike packages, and mission timelines. The carrier does not just launch aircraft, it orchestrates campaigns. Each decision, each calculation, ripples outward until squadrons are in the air. Radar jammers are clouding enemy systems, and strike fighters are pushing the front line forward. The Vincent thinks, plans, and directs the nervous system of a fleet. And then there is the Thomas Hudner, smaller than the carriers but no less critical, bristling with Aegis radar, SM-6 interceptors, and Tomahawk missiles. It is the shield that guards the formation. On the 14th of June, it intercepted Iranian missiles before they could strike Israeli soil. In battle, it will continue to watch the skies, swatting down threats before they can reach their targets. But its role is more than defense. By linking its sensors and interceptors to the carriers, the Hudner connects tactical action with strategic command. It is the final piece of a triangle hammer, brain, shield each, amplifying the others. Individually, these ships are formidable. Together, they are something far more dangerous. A system designed to dominate air, sea, and cyber domains simultaneously. It is a machine that does not merely fight wars. It shapes them before they begin. Tehran does not need subtitles to understand this message. 3 ships, 1 purpose: to project power directly to Iran's doorstep. Do you believe this triangle of power is enough to deter Iran's next move? Press 1 in the comments if you think it will hold the line. Press 9 if you think Tehran will still push back, and make sure to subscribe for more in-depth battlefield analysis. The Pentagon had acted with precision, moving pieces on the board faster than most nations could comprehend. Interceptors were fired, carriers redeployed, destroyers locked into formation. Within 48 hours, the U.S. Navy had shifted from observation to engagement readiness. Every technical chain had functioned as intended. Intelligence gathered from satellites, drones, and electronic surveillance was fused and relayed without delay. Commands were followed, aircraft were armed, and radar systems scanned continuously. Militarily, the United States looked like a machine in motion, efficient, seamless, and unflinching. But as America's steel moved, its leadership stood still. The White House had not spoken. There was no message to Congress, no coordination with allies, no address to the American people. The silence grew louder with every hour. In the Middle East, allies began to wonder if Washington's resolve matched the Navy's speed. Enemies questioned whether the United States was bluffing behind its deployments. For generals at the Pentagon, the chain of command was clear. For the world watching, it was not. Iran's silence, however, was of a different kind. Tehran did not boast, did not threaten, did not rush to claim victory. State media kept quiet. Militias like Hezbollah and the popular mobilization forces remained still. No rockets were fired from Lebanon. No convoys moved across the Syrian desert. Analysts suggested that Iran had been caught off guard by the speed of the American response. What was meant to be a dramatic strike on Israel had instead triggered a coordinated display of American naval power. And so, Tehran waited, measuring Washington's hesitation against the Pentagon's urgency. This dual silence, political in Washington, strategic in Tehran, was not peace. It was pause. A dangerous pause. U.S. warships stood in position, fully armed. Combat air patrols circling above. Israeli forces remained on maximum alert. Every radar, every missile battery, every fighter jet was poised for the next move. Yet no one knew whose silence would break first. In crises, timing is everything. A statement delayed can be as dangerous as a missile fired. And at this moment, the world's most powerful military was led by a president who had not yet chosen words, while its most unpredictable adversary considered its next step. Between the silence of Washington and the silence of Tehran stretched a corridor of uncertainty. And in that corridor, wars are born. With 3 warships deployed in unison, the United States had issued its strongest warning of the year. The USS Nimitz, the USS Carl Vinson, and the USS Thomas Hudner now formed a living triangle of power across the Middle East. Air wings were on constant alert. Destroyers stood ready to intercept, and command centers pulsed with data that could shape a battlefield in real time. This was no longer distant support. This was direct engagement. For decades, America had played the role of the arsenal abroad, arming allies, funding defenses, but keeping its own forces one step removed from the fire. That posture ended the moment these ships converged. The U.S. Navy was no longer just a supplier. It was the front line itself. Every movement sent a message not just to Tehran, but to every capital in the region. Washington would no longer wait for war to come knocking. It would meet it at the door. Yet steel alone cannot decide outcomes. The most advanced carrier, the most sophisticated radar, the most disciplined crew, all of it requires direction. And that direction can only come from leadership. The Pentagon had shown urgency, but the White House had shown hesitation. In a region where minutes matter, where hesitation looks like weakness, the silence of America's president risked undermining the credibility that its Navy was buying at immense cost. Across the Middle East, eyes turned not to the carriers, but to Washington. Would the president speak? Would there be a vision beyond deployment, a strategy beyond presence? Or would America's enemies conclude that the fist could swing, but the head lacked the will to guide it? Iran, Hezbollah, and countless other actors waited, calculating their next moves against the measure of America's silence. This is the paradox of power: unmatched military strength, paired with uncertain political resolve. Naval guns can deter, fighters can strike, and destroyers can defend, but without clarity at the top, even the strongest formation sails into ambiguity. That ambiguity can either hold a fragile balance or break it entirely. And so, the questions remain. Will Iran escalate further, or will it retreat into silence? Will militias across the region act, or stay their hand? And most importantly, will Washington seize control of events, or let events seize control of Washington? The answers have yet to come, but the stakes could not be higher. For those watching, there is a lesson deeper than ships and missiles. True power is not only about strength, it is about control, vision, and the courage to lead when hesitation tempts silence. Nations, like individuals, are tested not when they prepare for conflict, but when they must decide whether to prevent it or risk being consumed by it. In a world on edge, leadership is the rarest weapon of all. Do you think America's leadership will hold firm in this crisis? Press 1" the comments if you believe Washington will rise to the moment. Press 9 if you think hesitation will cost them dearly. And don't forget to subscribe for more frontline insights that reveal the battles shaping our world.